She told us to wait a minute. No, no. Testing. Okay, if we can take our seats, we'll get started with the next program. It has been an honor for the last 19 years to have the Dred and Harriet Scott Reconciliation Forum as part of the Cherry Blossom schedule. But this is actually the 20th anniversary of the foundation. And they have been such good supporters and such good stewards of being participants of our festival. And without further ado, if you'd put your hands together for Sherry Jackson, descendant of Dred and Harriet Scott, and who is substituting for her mother, Lynn Jackson, today, but Sherry herself was generally up here many times over the years. Put your hands together for Sherry Jackson.
Thank you, Nicholas. I had a dream last night that I did a terrible job, so be kind. I'm not going to say much. It is the 20th anniversary of the Dred Scott Heritage Foundation. And I know last year was, I think, the 20th anniversary of the Cherry Blossom Festival. Is that right? Yeah. So we have a lot to celebrate. My mom, unfortunately, couldn't be here today. My dad is having some health problems, so she thought it best to stay home and get him to the doctor. But I am stepping in her place. I'll do my best. But we have Mary Aker here. Everybody knows Mary, and she's going to be our MC. Mary, do you want to introduce yourself?
You guys know who I am. I'm Mary Aker, only somebody calls me Anchor, but that's okay too if you want to call me that. Can I talk about Dred Scott a minute?
Yeah.
I don't know how many know, I mean, I'm sure you all know the name Dred Scott, but do you know what happened? Dred and his wife, Harriet, Dred belonged to a man who was a military man, and he served out of in a free state. And the law then was if you were in a free state, you were free forever. But they came back to Missouri, and all of a sudden that wasn't the thing anymore. And he and Harriet were both enslaved again. But a lot of abolitionist lawyers went to work with him, and they took their case all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court made the worst decision so far that time. They said that a black person could not be a citizen of the United States, couldn't be a citizen of the city, could not be free, and never could be. They couldn't vote. And it was just a horrible, horrible thing. So we just would love to honor Dred and Harriet Scott for what they went through, what all the rest of our enslaved people have gone through. I remember the first time I came here when Lynn was here with the people in front, and I sat out in the audience with my mouth open, because sitting in front of me was a descendant of Thomas Jefferson, white, a descendant of Thomas Jefferson, black, a descendant of John McLean, who's the one that wrote a dissenting opinion, 30 pages of a dissenting opinion on that ruling. And Jefferson Davis, descendant of Jefferson Davis. And a niece of Dr. Martin Luther King. I sat out in the audience with my mouth open because I could not believe what I was seeing. It was, for me, a truly time of reconciliation in my heart and in my spirit. And I hope that tonight or today that you all feel that way too. We need reconciliation between all of us, white and black. White and white, black and black, white and black. So we hope that this is part of that. And we just want to introduce you to Jonathan Parker. You want your first thing?
Sure.
Okay.
I was invited to come and share a film that we did. I live in Virginia, and we did a film called The Movement. And today you're going to see about 20 minutes of that film, and then we're going to do a discussion about it. It is the story of 1963 in Danville, Virginia. And Danville, Virginia was the last capital of the Confederacy. So this is where Jefferson Davis was living when he found out that Lee had surrendered a few miles away in Appomattox. And so the film you're going to see just a bit of is going to kind of lay the groundwork for what you're going to see. The culmination of this is an event called Bloody Monday, which takes place when police in Danville, Virginia, and off-duty garbage men who were deputized and firefighters turn hoses and dogs and billy clubs on a group of 50 kneeling protesters who are praying for their brothers and sisters that have been jailed during that time for protesting segregation. And then you're going to see a little bit about the story of Danville's own reconciliation. So we'll start the film, and then we'll jump back in for a few questions, perhaps. Okay? Thank you.
They were expecting phone calls from the different TV stations. We got some awful phone calls calling the church and what y'all N-word doing up there today. And so I took a little break, just, walking around the church. I went downstairs and looked out the front door. And there's a building across on the next street. And there were people on the roof of those buildings with guns pointed at the church. You don't know what they're going to do.
This city has gone through a tremendous upheaval. Danville was a tough spot during civil rights.
Over the years that Dr. King had said, if Birmingham had not taken its course in the summer of '63, then Danville would have been one of the major civil rights spots.
There was always somebody who's willing to cross the line. And I think that may have been the magnet that drew so many people's attentions to Danville, because there were white folk who would cross the line. They didn't care about the death of other people.
Hitting children and women with huge pieces of wood, we didn't think they would be able to do that.
There was nothing that they wouldn't do.
The fact of the matter is, black people were segregated from the time they were born to the time that they were buried. From birth to burial, they were segregated.
See, on Bloody Monday, they came down to the jail to bring us food and come down to sing to us outside of the jail. And that's when they trapped them in the jail alley and they beat them.
I think anytime any one person gets hurt, that's not right if you're using force. I think you use force to overcome force. And this was just to disperse the crowd. And thank goodness I was not here. I was working day shift. And we had been relieved because we were working about 19 hours a day during that period of time.
And you had women and children from the church praying and being the epitome of nonviolence and love.
There were some people who were not police officers that had been sworn in from the Public Works Department to protect the building.
And firemen who were usually used to saving lives and putting out fires, getting ready to turn high-powered hoses on women and children. All the TV networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, they were all here. They had the cameras set up, they had the lights set up and everything. And I looked and I could tell that the TV cameras were not going to film. They were not going to film the mayhem and the massacre that was about to happen. So I stepped forward with my little camera that had a flash camera on it, and I took a picture of Chief McCain with the kneeling line of marchers, fire trucks in the background, being converged upon by the men with big sticks. And I took a flash picture.
I was told that there was a guy by the name of John Robert Zellner, who was a white, I think he was with SNCC, something like that, and that he walked up to Chief McCain and snapped a flash bulb right in his face. And
the police chief walked over to me very calmly, took the leather strap from around my neck and took my camera and bashed it on the concrete. It fell apart. He got the roll of film out and pulled the film out like that, exposing all the film, destroying it. And then he looked at all the TV cameras. He said, "Anybody else going to take pictures?"
And that's when he gave the order to disperse the crowd.
And if you can just imagine people just tumbling down the street as a result of the fierceness and the pressure from the water hose.
They washed women and children under cars.
It was murder. Real water being sprayed on you and you out in the street on steps. It was terrible.
And they made us stand there and watch the next 15 or 20 minutes of absolute massacre and mayhem of peaceful people. And they held their hands on their guns and they said, "What kind of men are you? You can watch your women folk being treated that way." And they were daring us to do something and indicating that they would shoot us if we did.
When you looked across the street, there were men who were bus drivers and garbage workers, all white, with these brand new nightsticks. Not just policemen, they was in street clothes just like me and you. And we could hear people screaming. And we didn't know what was going on because that was in the back of the building. And what was happening was that the fire department came, and that's when they put the hose on the people who were in between the back of the courthouse and the jail. So it was nowhere for people to run or get away because they were squeezed in between those two buildings. So people were washed underneath cars, up against the building.
They washed my fiance under a car with the fire hoses, and she was almost drowning under the car. And when she tried to climb out, they hit her in the head.
That's jammed and packed. People being identified to the severity of their pain. It was like life had broken through.
And people suffered broken bones. I remember some lady had severe injuries to her breast. They had to rush her to a hospital in Richmond.
They ran them back and forth in that alley, and they made us stand there and watch as they just Absolutely. They split people's heads open, noses split open, women's breasts split half in two.
Where we were, they also used a fire hose, if I remember correctly, and they just charged up the stairs of the courthouse with these new nightsticks. Fortunately, I didn't get hit, but just scraped up from running down the steps and, trying to get away.
When we got back down here, a lot of folks were, like washed down the street, beat up, bloody, and a lot of some funeral home directors would take their cars and drive folks to Winslow Hospital because we could not go to Memorial Hospital. It was not integrated. Winslow was the black hospital.
And the night ended with people bringing their cars to pick up those who were injured.
There was a lot of things that were wrong with that day and how people were policed then.
They were beaten, and a lot of them were hurt, and for no reason, I believe, at all.
But if you look at Danville then and look at Danville today, good God, it's like night and day, literally. It is not the same.
We've had at least 3 black mayors in Danville, so we've made some progress. I think that they'll continue.
When I was appointed to the city council, my brother, who was living in Stanton at the time, he came and sat right here as I took the oath. And I said, "Why are you sitting right there?" Because that's where I sat in 1963 when the judge called me up to sentence me.
Well, I've seen a lot of changes in Danville. Things I've seen there, I never thought I'd see. It's gone from birth to life.
There seems to be a new spirit in Danville, a spirit of building, of progress, and race relations are obviously different now that you have a black mayor and some degree of black power now.
The more I can sit down and listen to people tell the stories of what actually happened, the more I feel like we're doing our children a disservice when we just skim over the top of it.
He would remind us that what I went through was for a purpose. And I went through this to make a better life for you all. And we remember that and see now what our responsibility is to let our children and our grandchildren know that your grandfather, our father, fought for our freedom.
I think a lot of the problem with our kids, especially the black kids, they don't realize how much their family members have given to give them what they have now. And I don't think you'll find much of it in the public media anywhere, because what they did from their heart.
Well, my mom always been a historian. She wanted to keep the history because she wanted her children to always know, and then her grandkids and her great-grandkids and her great-grandkids, and she knew that we would share that story with others as well. She said because those pictures and those articles will tell the truth of what happened.
We were all marching for a change. We believed in what we were doing. We didn't know when that change was going to come, but we believed that it was going to come, and it has come.
Now that I see what it accomplished, makes me feel good that I was a part of it. But then, it was terrible.
We can look at history to see how we can make things better, how we don't make the same mistakes. And our kids don't know that. They don't know the humiliation of seeing your mom having to stand back because this person just happened to be white and they just walked on past them and got in front. Because you're less than human. You don't count. So to say that there are changes, oh yeah. To say that there need to be more changes, of course.
It's better now, but it's not to the point where we can say we have arrived. We're moving forward, but we're not there.
It's some change, but it still has a lot of work to do here in this last Confederate capital.
Never return to that ugly past. Never return to that ugly past. It's all about treating people right. It's about love. It's about helping people. It's about being the best that you can be. And it's about remembering that whatever you're doing today, you're standing on somebody else's shoulder.
I think a lot of my city. And I think my city really strives to make a difference and to do better.
There were no black police officers, none. And now we have several black police officers, male and female. We have a police department that I'm proud of. I knew the police department as a young kid, young teenager, and I've seen the transition.
And by the way, the police officer who had dragged me at that time, we met probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and he did apologize to me. So that meant a lot, because now after all of these years, he finally realized what he did at that time was really wrong. And I just thought that really hit my heart, that he was able to do that. And now that we could be human beings, we could understand each other a little better now. Don't act like it never happened. Acknowledge that it did, and then do something about it. And it goes a long way to healing.
So I was contacted to interview Apostle Campbell about a recent book that he had just written. And it focused, I believe, mostly on the civil rights era, specifically 1963 and Bloody Monday. And they asked if I would interview him at Averett University at the library. So I said, absolutely. And I thought to myself, I said, this could really be a moment where the police and the community come together to maybe acknowledge some things that were wrong, were certainly wrong. And they gave me a list of about 8 questions. And one of the questions, I think it was like question number 5, was I asked Apostle Campbell how he felt when the former chief of police arrested and brutalized his wife. And during that interview was a very powerful, very emotional moment. So that became my public apology, in that, how do you ask a question of this legendary man in the community? How do you ask a question like that without acknowledging the past misdeeds of the police department and the city? So it really organically emerged as I asked him that question, and we found that he had never been publicly or actually apologized to by the police department, by the city, for that incident. And so that's when it happened. All right, it happened there during that question, and I was asked after if that was a public apology, and I'm the police chief and I represent the police department, so that's how it happened.
It meant a lot. He was the first one to do that, to acknowledge that there needed to be an apology.
I love the fact that I was able to publicly acknowledge something, a wrong, and it was a wrong. I rarely read comments about the article, but that specific night, I did read some comments. And for every positive comment, there was also some negative comments. And that really kind of hit me. That really, even thinking about that now, that really bothers me, that there was a level of community input that thought that was the wrong thing to do.
It's the ones who caused the trouble should be the ones to apologize. I thank Mr. Booth for apologizing, but we didn't need his apology. We needed the ones that was in power then to apologize. Until they apologize, the ones that did this, that's the only ones I can accept apology from.
You see, I didn't realize at the time that I'm going to be part of history. But now when I look back, it makes me feel very, very proud.
I loved being a part of it. I enjoyed every minute of it. If enjoy is the word you could use. But I felt a part of something big.
My dad kept a billy club in the office. He wanted to remind himself of what he went through, what they went through. Not to be upset by it, not to have it to be a remembrance of any of the hurt and pain that they suffered going through this, but to remind them where they came from.
I'm very proud to have been a small part of that history in Danville. And a part of it is that Danville epitomizes the will to continue to struggle. And it looked like maybe near the end of the summer of '63 that we had lost in Danville. But it taught us one thing, and that is no struggle is ever a failure.
I think that is what we're seeing now is a result of that. And I think the legacy is that it was a smart movement, and it was well planned, and it was well carried out. I would say I'm glad that you did what you did. If you got hurt, I'm sorry you did. That should not have happened. And I thank you for all your efforts in helping us to get where we are today.
There is a struggle, and I believe it will always be a struggle, but they set the mark. They raised the bar high, and they set a standard that we're gonna continue to look forward. That's the legacy that they have left all of us.
And I don't think you could find a person that was back there during the movement that would tell you that they regret having participated.
It's just such a joy to grow up, living in this city, being connected to some of these people. And, you know, just to sit and think about all of the things that they've went through, the beatings that they took, how they were thrown in jail so that we could go to schools that were not segregated, so that we would have Black firefighters, Black police officers.
I'm proud of where Black people have come, from picking cotton to picking the president. You can't get much farther than that.
Oh, I'm real happy, very happy. Every time I pass by, I see a white person, and they're sitting in the car looking at me, and I'm sitting in mine looking at them, I feel good. I really do tell you the truth. And that's the truth.
The basis of it is that we all lived through segregation and really, really hard times. But we came out, and we had a leader. Dr. King was right on time. Right on time.
See, everybody have a chance to do something. And you can't let that slip by you. Because you're only gonna get one chance.
The thing about being in a revolution, you don't know you're in a revolution, you know. I never thought for a million years that it would be like this, that I would be happy to be a part of something that revolutionized the country. But I'm glad I did. I'm happy that I participated. But 1963 was the year, and it was time. Everything happens when it's supposed to happen. I believe that.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
You know, one of these days, black and white are going to be one. And I hope I'm here to see it. Okay, want to talk about it?
I was going to just briefly say, I mean, we found out about this. This is about 40 minutes south of where I grew up. And I think the reason that we really wanted to do the film and share it is, you know, if something like this can happen in the last capital of the Confederacy, it can kind of happen anywhere, you know? And I'm reminded of a wise teacher who told a parable about the Good Samaritan. And I think the most important thing I've drawn out of that is not just that you have to love your neighbor, but it's that you have to recognize everyone as your neighbor. And I think that's the thing that I'd really like for us to take away from it is, what does it look like to be better neighbors to each other? And in Danville, that community just didn't talk about this for a real long time. You know, they had this black eye on them where they had this awful experience with police brutality, and they just didn't acknowledge it for years and years and years. And then people started asking questions, and now you have this lovely group that you see on film, and we've traveled through the state, and we've had conversations that are very similar to this. And it's incredible. And the sweet lady that you see who's got the glasses and has the purple bow in her hair, and she's very bright and very bubbly and very lovely. Her name is Dorothy Batson, and my children call her Aunt Dot. And to me, that's the long game. And I think we're trying to play the long game with our family and with each other, and seeing each other as special and unique and lovely, and how can we make our community and our city a little bit better. I think the noise that you see out of both sides in Washington is often very divisive, and they're looking for any way to pit people against each other. And I think when you look at a locality, you can find that the community often has much more in common with each other than it does separately. We all want good schools. We all want a good quality of life. We all want our neighbor to have a chance. And I think that's the beauty of this. And we were so moved on our way here from Virginia. We stopped in St. Louis, and we visited the Arch, of course, and then we stopped in the old courthouse. And we saw just the incredible exhibit, if you've not seen it, that your mom helped put together of Dred and Harriet Scott. And I think it's just incredible to see, and it's powerful. And it's important to see that stuff and acknowledge it as real and truthful, and that it happened, and not let that kind of thing get scraped aside. So I just wanted to thank you so much for your family's work and for what they have done in all this. And I'm just grateful to be able to share this stage with you today.
I'm a little emotional. I just want to say that I'm really sorry. Did not plan on doing this. But when it comes to apologies, back in 2016, we had a reconciliation forum in St. Louis, and Charlie Tawney was there. And he's like the great-great-grandson of Roger Tawney, who wrote the decision for Dred Scott, who said that, black man has no rights that the white man is bound to respect, and all that. And at the forum, he formally apologized to our family, and it really meant a lot to me. And I had a family member, and I can't even remember who, it's probably for the best, but they felt like it wasn't enough, like Roger Tawney should have apologized while he was still alive. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? If you can get it, why not? I mean, there's no way to dig up Roger Tawney and get an apology from him. He died an old, weird racist, and that's just how it is. But his family could have been one way, and thank you, and they're another. And that's what matters, is the change. So when the guy in the movie that we just watched says, I want the people who did it to apologize, like, I totally understand it. If they were still alive, that'd be great. But don't ever feel like apologizing on behalf of someone is not worth it.
100%.
So, sorry, I don't know why I'm so emotional.
That's beautiful, though. That's important. No, that's really important. The man that you saw who said that is John Pinchback, and he's a dear friend of mine, and he was brutally treated in jail and spent almost a year in jail, and so he's angry, and probably would be too if it was me, and but that rage has nowhere to go. If you're this is people being angry about we can't get an apology from someone who's not alive. And so, but to acknowledge it's really, really important. My children are here, my 3 kids are here, and that's a big, we want them to see this, to know this. Like, I was raised in the South. I mean, there is racism deeply rooted in my own family, right? And that's part of my story, probably part of your story, I would reckon. And so we're able to move forward and break chains of that and be together and have conversations like this. So do you want to take any questions? Are there any
Yes.
questions for me?
Jonathan, the scene at the end, that people said, say a little more about what was the setting?
So the steps that you see there I can, I'm so sorry. So he asked about the scene that you see at the end, where you see people walking up to the stairs. And so the scene that you saw in 1963, that you don't see in the film just for time, we shortened up for you to see today, is weeks and months of large groups of young protesters finding themselves on the courthouse steps, and they're just singing freedom songs. And they're picketing in front of businesses, and they're doing sit-ins, and eventually the city puts ordinances in that's basically telling them that they cannot assemble anymore. And that's when the arrests start happening, because they're just like, okay, that's great. We're going to continue to be seen. We're going to continue to have our voices heard because you're not wanting to change and listen and come to the table. And so they're getting dragged off these steps. And we just talked with some of the folks that are interviewed in the film. We said, well, what would it look like to you if we had a different assembly on those steps? And we opened it up for, people that wanted to come. And we had, white, black, all in between show up for it. And you see many of the faces on the film that are in the movie are there. at the end with other people. And interestingly enough, we had a bunch of police officers that decided we want to be in there and we want to show a different Danville. And you've got fire department folks that show up. And so it's important to me. This is my home. You know, I don't make a film to burn the house down. This is where I live. Like, I want healing and hope. And I think the city wants that too. And that's why I take the film around, is to show what hope and healing can look like. Not completely, and certainly not for me to say whether it is or not, but it's moving in a direction that I think the community feels proud of.
Yes.
How many capitals were there from the Confederacy during those 4, 5, 6 years that they had capitals? They must have moved. And how long was Danville the capital?
You know, I'm not sure. They slipped him in there. And if you look at the very, this is a Civil War expert needs to answer this question for you and not me. The building that you see at the very beginning and you see the plaque, it's called the Sutherland Mansion. And that is where Davis was meeting with his cabinet when he found out that Lee had surrendered. He gets the word, and then he immediately starts booking it south, right, to head out of town. And that museum for the longest time flew the Confederate flag over it, up until about 8 years ago when the city council voted to take it down. Now, what's happened in our community as a result of that is that we've had some folks who disagree with that decision that have put flagpoles up in various parts of the town, and they fly Confederate flags. And boy, I sure do wish they would take them down, but it is what it is. But that is, I mean, that and in that site of that museum, we have a beautiful civil rights exhibit that's in the basement of that mansion. And it was at one time the public library for Danville, and black people could not go into that library. And 2 years ago, for the first time, we showed this film with all these folks that you see in the movie. And one of the ladies, Aunt Dot, was the first one who said, I couldn't have been here 60 years ago, and now I'm here with you having a conversation about this. So it's pretty powerful. Yes, sir. It does. The subtitles are baked in. I think there's a QR code. If you want to go, it'll dump you on it'll take you to a site where you can watch the full film. Yeah.
And how many days or hours did the riot last?
So they started protesting formally in the spring of '63, and it ran through towards the end of '63. Kennedy's assassination really kind of put a damper on a lot of the movement. These folks that you saw, a great deal of them were teenagers at the time during this, and they went to the March on Washington. John Lewis speaks about Danville, and his speech at the March on Washington specifically mentions the brutality in Danville. And the Bloody Monday event happened on a late night, and it was a couple hours. And you've got funeral home directors because the city's not hauling people off. So you've got black funeral homes showing up with their hearse, and they're using them as ambulances.
The newspaper, and I wish it had frozen on it, it looked like it said June 11th, 1963, which would have been the day after
Yes.
President Kennedy at American University gave his nuclear test ban treaty speech. And the day before, he quickly got on national television because of the murder of Medgar Evers.
Yeah.
So I thought that date might have been the same day.
It's June. Yeah. So Bloody Monday was June 10th, 1963. Yeah.
You know, it takes some of us a long time to come to understanding. I was in marching Mizzou in 63, 4, whatever it was.
I was in marching Mizzou.
And we had these I'm sorry?
Marching Mizzou.
Marching Mizzou.
I was in marching Mizzou.
Were you?
Wow.
How many other people were in marching Mizzou? That's cool. Well, we had the most amazing black musicians in that, and to me, from Rothville, Missouri, we had no black people at all. I went to school with, 2 or 3, but they had us playing Dixie, And those amazing trumpeters were playing Dixie. And it took me a long time before my 17-year-old self thought, what the heck were we thinking? You know, and I just want to, you know how much I love you, and how much I love your mother, and how much I love all of my black friends. And I just want to apologize. I had ancestors who were Confederate soldiers, and I just want to apologize. And I love you.
I love you too. Thank you.
I think what they're showing now is, as we're going to conclude here in a few minutes, this is some photos over the years that you'll see. This is Cherry Blossom Festival, right?
Yeah.
These are events that have happened here.
Yeah, these are photos that my mom has through the years, the 19 years that she's done this. There's Bertram Hayes Davis, second from left. He's the great-great-grandson of Jefferson Davis. And Viola, I think is her name. She was like the last Civil War widow, the last living Civil War widow. So there's some people here I know, people I don't know, but she got all her pictures together. Oh, is that the Waltons? That's the Waltons. Okay, I've never seen the show. So. I think that's.
Did you have a question? I'm so sorry. I think you asked what's the connection between the film and the Dred Scott Foundation. Really none, but the wonderful Nicholas Inman, who in his wisdom put Lynn and I together and said, you two probably would like each other, and sent the film to Lynn, and Lynn said, well, would you bring it and share it as part of our program that we're doing?
Any other questions? Oh, yes.
Thank you, Sally.
Do we want to recognize you?
Yes, we do. I'm looking at the time. We've got a couple minutes left. I need to mention that there is going to be a Cardinals night at the ballpark for Dred Scott and Oscar
This is it
Charleston.
here. Can we stop right here, Kathy, just for a second? I think this is it.
Yeah. June 16th. Now, if you guys are Cardinals fans, and if you ever get to St. Louis, they have these nights at the ballpark, like Build-A-Bear night, where it would be like the first 2,500 people get a bear or something. I don't know if this is one of those official nights, but it's our night to be there. Everybody who buys a ticket will be in the same section, seated in the same section. I think if we get 500 tickets sold, one of the family members will be able to throw out the first pitch. And so that's June 16th. She's working on it right now real hard. And so the QR code is up here if you want more information about it. I think the tickets can be found through the website. Usually, so dredscottlives.org is how you get to the website. And in connection with that, I want to introduce really quickly someone who's got sports on the brain, like my mom does. An Ella Dickey Literacy Award winner this year, right? Virgil Woolfolk. If you want to come up here for just a second, he's got a book called Back When We Were Colored. And I'm going to let him talk about it. Just give you a brief overview of it.
You want to come, please come up so everyone can see you.
I know my mom has read the book. I have not, unfortunately, but she wanted him to be able to come up and just say a few words.
Good morning. I was glad to be here. I was here last year, thanks to Sally. Yes, I wrote a book. I grew up here in Missouri. I'm one of the kids that are the last of the segregation in a little town called Wright City, which is about 50 miles west of St. Louis. And I'm the last of the kids that actually went to the all-black school, and then we integrated. And it was quite the experience because they didn't want us there. And graduated. In fact, my friends outside, he was one of my childhood friends, Sam Parks, he and I went to school, and he went on to go to MIT. I went to law school and started a business and was ex-Navy. But my book covers my growing up in St. Louis. I remember when, in St. Louis, when Dr. King came, and there was a lot of black folks didn't want him because of the situations that you just saw. A lot of businesses were destroyed, a lot of people were hurt, arrested, and so there wasn't a welcome mat a lot of time from a lot of the black businesses wanting him to come there. I've also, but ended up meeting his father on a plane flying from San Francisco to San Diego back in the late 70s, and he was going his way to support Jimmy Carter, and I ended up meeting Jimmy Carter down there. My first president I ever met was Mr. Truman. I skipped school. Back in those days, Coors beer wasn't allowed to be sold in Missouri. And we would go up to Kansas City, Kansas, buy a Coors beer, bring it back to St. Louis and sell it. And made money. Gas was 25 cents back then, so, we could roll with that. But on the way back, we stopped in Independence, Missouri, and Mr. Truman was there. And he was like, "What are you boys doing here?" And he was like, "We lied." He knew we were skipping school. Anyway, he took us into his office and he talked to us. But one of the things that he told us was, America will never be great until the Negro gets treated fairly in this country and can do great things. And I always remembered that. So, that's what my book talks about. It also talks about the fact that my family, my aunt and uncle had a place in St. Louis, and when baseball players like Willie Mays would come and play the Cardinals, they couldn't stay at the Chase Park Plaza. So they stayed at my aunt's house and uncle's house. So people like Stan Musial would come over with Vincent Price. I played catch with Willie Nelson, for example. I talk about all these types of experiences, and particularly how Willie Mays was so nice to us kids and played stickball with us. But then Kurt Floyd stayed there when he was going through his situation with the Cardinals and free trade. He wasn't not necessarily a nice guy, but looking back as a grown man, I could see the stress that he was under and why he may not have been so friendly. But I ended up, going to the University of Missouri, ran out of money, joined the Navy, went out to California, stayed out there for about 50 years, had, started a business. As I said, went to law school, and then came back here, and now I live in Innsbruck, about 50 miles west of St. Louis. But I had a friend, I was having lunch with John Povos, who was Timmy Onlassie, his wife, and I was talking about the story, and he said, "You got to write a book." So I wrote the book, and then she introduced me to Sally, and Sally helped me put it together, which I'm forever thankful for. So I hope that you will come out and buy the book and read it, and I thank you. I'm giving most of the donations to veterans. I'm a disabled vet myself, but recently this administration cut the money for veterans with post-traumatic stress for their dogs. So I'm donating and trying to help them with that. So I thank you for your time and appreciate you very much.
All right, I believe we're out of time. Thank you all for coming, and please be a part of the healing.